we're still figuring it out, the label and I, but really like there's a lot of hip hop influence, a lot of pop influence, but I'm just excited to write music that comes from an authentic place, and so I think that sometimes that is like, what is the most fun, joyful song we can make? Sometimes it's like, how do we write about this difficult subject matter in a way that offers hope, or talks about the joy that we have in spite of painful circumstances. So
All right. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys next time.
Sounds good.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
You don't happen to know if PEABOD is still in town, do you?
Do you know it?
No.
Okay. Here's Jeremiah.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, man?
I figured since we're down here and we're looking to kind of maximize the efficiency when we're here, seeing if there's other people that wanted to jump on too. So if you were interested, I'd love to have you on the show.
I'd love to. I'd be honored.
All right, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for asking.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's going to be great. So at the front of this trip, have you not been buckled this whole time? So at the start of this trip, I kind of had an expectation that there would be a surprise guest that we didn't have planned.
Yeah.
Last minute connections.
Last minute ad.
Don't get lucky. Thank you.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Come on in.
Appreciate it.
You're listening to For the Record, conversations about music, mixing, and the creative industry. Today's guest is PEABOD. PEABOD is a Seattle-based artist who makes uplifting hip-hop and pop-inspired music.
Hello.
hi.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you for the unexpected extra episode of For the Record. This is fun.
Yeah, I'm honored to be a part of it. Thanks for having me.
It's been planned for all of 24 hours.
I know, maybe not even 24 hours.
Probably not even.
Yeah.
That was like 6 o'clock at night.
Right. Honestly it was. Well, thank you so much for taking some time and just joining us and
Of course.
talking about yourself.
I love talking about myself.
Oh, you seem like the kind of guy, yeah.
I was like, they want to talk about me? I'm in.
Right. So without further ado, let's talk about you.
Awesome.
So
Off to a strong start.
Right. This is great. So as Ben said, tell us about kind of what your shtick is, what stuff you like to do, and what defines you.
Yeah. I feel like to really answer that question, I got to go back a ways. Not like way back. This won't be like a 20-minute answer, but I grew up taking piano lessons and stuff like that, and started writing songs when I was 15. But originally, those songs, well, first of all, they weren't good because no one writes good songs on the first try.
Right.
But kind of started finding a lane as more like a singer-songwriter, doing some folk stuff, and I'm a guitar player, and so I wrote folk kind of singer-songwriter songs for a long time.
Yeah.
And after I graduated from college, I lived in a house with 4 other guys, and there was one guy there named Fletcher, and we were just like, let's get Fletcher married. Let's write a song about him. And so I wrote this song called Summer Fletcher.
I have heard it.
Yes.
Yes.
Kind of a strange...
It makes sense with context.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't not make sense. Like, I was like, it's a song about a bro, Gotta respect it.
Totally.
But...
Yeah, no, I kind of was like, when we put it on the album, I was like, this isn't gonna make sense to anyone, and I don't really care because it was the first one. So so we released that song, and I'm not saying like it was all my doing, but he did meet his wife the summer we released it. So
shut up.
You know,
that's beautiful.
I'm just saying. Anyways, dropped that song. It got a way better response than a lot of my folk stuff, so I was a little hurt at first. But then I was like, I had so much fun making this. It was so freeing to make something in this genre, because I feel like with folk stuff, it's like you kind of got to be serious. Like there's certain things, like I have a song about Coca-Cola. I can't write a song about Coca-Cola that it would be stupid as a folk song. So,
but if you lean into it,
exactly,
it's a vibe.
Yeah. So really, I kind of just started this process of like, what does it look like to just have fun with music and like have joy kind of be the focus, which of course ties in with, my faith as a believer. Like joy is a really central component to that. So anyways, fast forward to where I am now. We're still figuring it out, the label and I, but really like there's a lot of hip hop influence, a lot of pop influence, but I'm just excited to write music that comes from an authentic place. And so I think that sometimes that is like, what is the most fun, joyful song we can make? Sometimes it's like, how do we write about this difficult subject matter in a way that offers hope or talks about the joy that we have in spite of painful circumstances. So so I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's kind of the goal, is like I want to make music that brings joy to people, and sometimes the way to do that is by talking about the things that aren't like inherently joyful in and of themselves. So
that's cool. Well, and being that you have that kind of folk influence at the beginning, even if you're not necessarily doing that in the music right now, there's probably some elements to it. But even looking forward, that gives you an opportunity as you want to like step into, like you said, to celebrate joy. Sometimes you have to go to the places that aren't joyful and kind of go through that process. And like you can tap into the places that you've been even musically, and start to kind of meld or combine genres and do something that is more true to who you are and who you've been, that complements this journey and creates something truly unique. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think like I've done a lot of kind of more hip hop focused tracks recently, which the one actually that's coming out in a week is like very hip hop, which when this podcast is out, it will have been out for a while. But
I haven't heard it yet.
Well, buckle up. So even though we've done a lot of hip hop stuff, I'm really excited to start thinking about like how do we have stuff that's like hip hop influenced, but like I bring out a guitar on stage for a couple songs, or maybe we play some songs with like no tracks and it's only live instruments. Like that kind of stuff is very exciting to me. And it's it's expensive because you have to hire people for that kind of stuff. But that's the dream someday to be able to do that. So.
I think you can get away with that for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
It's just a matter of time. Like you just got to kind of ride the wave, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, totally.
That's cool. So your first album that you released was called Healthy Snacks, right?
It was, yes.
Love that. So did you do all the production on it? What did that look like?
Yeah.
And was that pre-label? Or was that like...
It was pre-label. Well, kind of both. So that was basically the project where I was, after I'd written Summer of Fletcher, I was like, I just want to have fun making music. And so 11 of those 12 songs I released independently, just like on SoundCloud. And through some mutual connections, Centricity ended up getting a hold of it. And like a month after I had released it, I got a call from John Mays, and he was like, hey, I want to fly out to Nashville, and we want to talk about maybe signing you. And so that kind of began like a several month process.
That moment, like, well, how was that moment? Like, kind of zoom in on that scene. Well, talk about that.
It was amazing because, like we were talking before we started rolling here, and like I've dreamed about doing music for a career since I was a kid. Like I can remember being in middle school and picking up a bass guitar and being like, this is a rock instrument, I want to be in a band. Like I want that to be my job. And so it looks different now than I thought it might when, My Chemical Romance was topping the charts. But like I've always wanted to do music, so getting that call, like, hey, like I'm with a label and we really like what you're doing and we want to talk about working together, was mind-blowing. Like I can still remember I was like, there's a little like overly priced grocery store close to where I live, and I like was sitting in the parking lot on my lunch break talking to John and just like grinning in ear to ear, like so excited. So and then a few weeks later I was in Nashville like meeting with them and feeling it out. And it took us a few months as deals do, but yeah, we got it together and signed a deal, and then basically we re-released the album through Centricity with new mixes, which elevated everything a ton. And then I added Steady on there as kind of like a last-minute addition because I had written that since releasing it. So
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. How was the reception of that album? How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, it went well, but I will say, like, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of an experiment. Like, even for myself, we're going like we're very much building a brand, and so I don't think there was a clear expectation where no one was going like, this has to be the top album in the country. It was like, this is the first thing that we're releasing, so we're gonna push it and like find our fans from there. So it's been really cool because the reception has been really positive, but the songs people have gravitated to have surprised me sometimes. So like Steady was like a last minute addition, and that's my top streamed song across like all platforms.
Wow.
Which is really awesome. And it's fun to have a song about your wife that is people actually like. So yeah, it's been fun to watch like what people respond to and to kind of develop like what I want to say out of that, but also just out of where my life is going. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So as you moved on and you released Growing Up Part 1, when did that come out, actually?
Last November.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2020.
What was kind of the plan and the idea behind that?
Yeah.
Because stylistically, it's similar. But we were kind of talking too. It feels like it's moving somewhere.
Yeah.
A cool place.
Yeah. No, thanks. I are you familiar with the Strength Finders? It's not like a personality thing. It's kind of more business focused. It's
maybe.
Basically, there's like this list of like 40 or 50 different strengths that you can exhibit, and you take a test and you get your top 5 where you're like, these are the things that I really excel in. So mine are pretty people oriented, but one of them is positivity. And so for a long time I felt like that meant like cheering people up and stuff like that, and that being the only form of positivity is like being the happy-go-lucky guy. As I've grown, I have realized it's like sometimes positivity, like we were saying earlier, means talking about the things that are not positive so that you can actually address them and heal from them and move on. So not to like get all deep, but a big part of my story, so it's kind of twofold. The inspiration for that album sort of started with this collective idea that everyone shares as you grow up, where you kind of become disenchanted with the world when you realize that your perception of how maybe the world should work is at odds with reality, because you don't get the job you want, you have a hardship, there's tragedy like left and right, whatever that thing is. There's plenty of ingredients to make someone disappointed or frustrated with the way the world works. For me, I have like some church hurt in my history, and so a big part of my inspiration for writing this album is like, I want to work through this like bitterness that I feel, because I know it's affecting my faith, and I know that other people relate to that too. And so in digging into that process, God was really kind to meet me there through writing the songs and through friends and sermons and all sorts of things. But also I through that realized like, oh wow, I really have an issue with anxiety too, and I couldn't really get to that until I started working on the bitterness stuff. So really, like, to be very candid, the last 2 years of my life have been a lot of soul searching and a lot of like working on myself and working through my story, and counseling and stuff like that. And it's been super hard and really fruitful at the same time. But that's kind of where the idea for Growing Up came from, is like, how do we hold in tension this like really good desire to take a childlike approach to things and to go back to the things that made us joyful, like to live in nostalgia in these songs. Like that is a really good thing.
Yeah.
And also, how do we hold that intention with the fact that there are some like adult problems that have come up that we have to deal with? And so, so it's kind of, originally it was going to be more of like kind of a story. So if you follow in the first EP, it kind of starts with like out of body, kind of like thinking about the process of growing up. And then it goes into this song, Love Everybody, that's very like optimistic, maybe even to a naive sense. And then you have Big Feelings, which is kind of like where something breaks and it shifts.
It kind of feels like a snap.
Yes, totally. And then Heavenly Father, which is kind of like in the pit of God, where are you? And Prodigal being, there you are. So part 2 that I'm working on right now will have some of that story element too, but some of it'll be a little more anecdotal, just like specific things I've learned or thought about as I've gone through this process. So that's kind of a long answer, but
no, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
And I mean, the beauty and the bummer about the creative process is it thrives under like hardship.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely.
Like, and I think it's actually a really beautiful way that the Lord can redeem like struggles. Is hey, I'm gonna take you through this. Like, I'm not putting you through this per se, but you're going through this. I'm gonna pull you through it. You're gonna see the other side.
Yep.
And as a blessing through that, you're gonna have a story that you can share with other people.
Yep.
And
Absolutely,
it'll enrich who you are, and you'll be able to use that to enrich the lives of other people as well.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, like he uses all of it. It's really crazy. And that is one thing that was cool to see in a shift from Healthy Snacks to growing up, is like I had people responding to Healthy Snacks saying like, this was really impactful for me, like really encouraged me and cheered me up, and that was all awesome. But the amount of messages that I got, like, this is a part of my story and I relate to this, was significantly higher.
Yeah.
Not that it's about like volume, but it was just cool to go, okay, like I felt like I was supposed to write these songs, and the Lord is using them in other people's lives. So so that was like kind of an unexpected encouragement for me to see that it's like, I wrote these songs for myself, so the fact that God can use them in other people's lives is like, well, that's him.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool that I don't know, when you're open to that he'll use them in that way.
That's really special.
Yeah.
And it's cool timing too, considering like 3 years ago you started like actually like you jumped in with Centricity Music and you're doing all this stuff, and then like a year in you're going through this hardship. It feels like a really cool way for the Lord to like set the stage for something, right?
Totally.
Like here's the, like, looking at your first album in context with what you're doing now too, it even feels like it's part of the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, wow. Like whenever I saw the first advertisements and stuff for growing up, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, and that even feels like right on target with everything. So that it's just cool seeing that and thinking like, looking at where you've been and where you're at now, like what the future holds. It's really exciting.
Thanks, man. That means a lot.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So your songwriting process, are you pretty much the sole writer on most everything you do?
That's how it started. I think, every creative has to learn collaboration. And so, like when I started as a musician, like in middle school, there's nothing more that I wanted than to be in a band and like to have my guys.
Yeah.
For some reason, like where I grew up, no one wanted to be in a band. Everyone, and maybe it's just Seattle,
I was the same way.
Yeah.
Like there ain't nobody wanted to do that with me.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal is. It sounds
we should have been friends.
Yeah, exactly.
We would have had a band.
We would have made a dope band, man. It would have been some ska, like
some ska influenced.
Yes. No, I think so. Honestly, I started writing my own stuff just kind of out of like, well, I really want to do this, and if no one's around, like for the longest time, I didn't even think of myself as like a singer. I was like, well, I just want to play guitar and play, or I started with bass. I was like, I just want to play in a band. So I started writing songs out of necessity, and then really fell in love with that process and with singing and all of that. So, and eventually rapping and stuff like that. So, So then for the longest time, it was like, well, I just do this on my own because no one's wanting to collaborate. So so I can learn things. I can learn production and do it on my own. And so I worked really hard on that. And it was like, you know, it's my safe, like, happy place, like, to get to do those things. So when I got signed, Centricity did a really beautiful job of kind of like gently nudging me, like, now it's time to collaborate with other people who are really talented at this, who are excited about what you're doing, because it's going to help you grow. And so it started like I was pretty tight-fisted, and I was like, no, like, I know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But Matt Ewald, who's my A&R guy here, has, like, he has done a fantastic job earning my trust, and he's super patient with me, even when I was not super excited about the idea of, like, bringing in more input, because I didn't have experience with it. And so,
well, it's vulnerable.
Yeah, totally. But it's cool now because I think once I had, like, my core group of people where I was like, these are the people that get to hear new songs before they're done, and no one else. Like, I trust these people's voices, and that's all I need to open to scrutiny before the song is done. So that's, if there's someone I'm collaborating with, my team at Centricity and with management and stuff, and then some trusted friends in Seattle. And that has been super helpful for me. And oftentimes that group has feedback I would never think of. So that's been really helpful. And then with this new project that I'm working on, there's been a lot more collaboration, and still some songs that I produced on my own that will probably make the record, but like the one that that will be out when this podcast releases, it's called My Favorite Part, and I started it, and then we sent it to my buddy Sajin Narial, who is now in Nashville actually, but he ended up co-producing on it and like totally brought it to a new level. And that was really fun because we had written together a few times and hadn't really quite landed anything. And so getting to go, hey, I have this idea, I feel like I've taken it as far as I can, and for him to like take it the last 10%, probably more than that, honestly. He added a ton. It was just cool and very fulfilling for me, and didn't feel like, oh, it lessens my contribution.
Like you had to forsake something or a part of yourself.
Totally. Because I could recognize, I felt like I had grown enough to recognize, like, oh no, this is way better with what he brought to the table. And I think that I had to learn how to do that. So anyways, so my process is changing all the time, which is really exciting. And I still, I still love the days where I get to spend 12 hours in the studio and make something on my own. Like, that's still fun, but I like inviting other voices in now. So
that's cool. So then the transition that you had, like, musically, from like folk music to like stepping into something, you did like the Summer Fletcher song, and that kind of was your template for building sounds that you use now. So what are some of your artist influences / like heroes that you're like, man, I've listened to literally everything they've ever done. They will always be my favorite.
I can remember the first time I heard a Switchfoot song. I was like 8 years old, and in my mom's like Ford Windstar, it was beige, and she was like, check out this song, and it was Gone from Beautiful Let Down, and I was like, what is this? Like, it blew my tiny mind. I couldn't believe it. And so ever since then, I have been obsessed with Switchfoot. And so even though I'm not making that kind of music, I like John Foreman is one of my heroes and always will be. So I've followed them for their whole career. Now I feel like I'm, I don't know. I never want to be one of those guys where it's like, I listen to everything, because it's like, well, I'm not listening to Tibetan bowl music, like, but, and even like I like some country stuff, but it's not like I'm avidly listening. Like, I have my favorites. So, but I do think that my palette of influences is a lot more diverse than it used to be. Chance the Rapper was like an awakening for me. That was the first time I heard someone kind of do like the happy hip hop thing when Coloring Book came out. I listened to a lot of King's Kaleidoscope, being from Seattle. They're incredible and really are pushing lots of genres. I love Colony House. I love John Bellion, anything Andy Mineo does, especially lately.
Same.
Incredible.
Yep.
Yeah. Coldplay, of course. Most people love Coldplay. I don't understand people who don't like. Like, I understand not like loving them. Like, they don't have to be your favorite band, but there's some people who like really hate on them. And I'm like, they seem so nice, and
It seems so nice.
and their music is like nice to listen to, I think. So,
Right.
anyways, yeah, man. I like. Sometimes I really like to just kind of go like way out of my comfort zone and go like, I would never listen to this record, but I'm just going to today. And so sometimes that has ended up being really fruitful. Sometimes I do hate it, but but I think it's fun to pull from different places because I think it makes your music more unique. Like if you're making country and you're only listening to country, it's like, well, you're gonna sound like all the artists that you're competing with.
Right.
But if you listen to Big Sean or you listen to whoever, like that can influence your music in cool ways, even if you're not doing what they're doing.
Like,
you know,
you try to make country music with like Colony House as your influence.
Right.
You're gonna get something different.
exactly, 100%. Yep. Yeah.
That's really cool. So, some rapid fire, low key questions.
Let's do it.
What's your top 3 favorite movies?
Oh my gosh. That's always supposed to be low key, but I take it very seriously, and I still don't. I never know how to answer it.
Yeah.
I'll just go with the first ones that come to mind. So, this is not like anyone who like knows cinema will not like this answer, but like I love Nacho Libre so much. I can quote the whole thing front to back. I love that movie. Randomly, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
It's like a pleasing movie.
It's just so uplifting. It's kind of one of those ones where it's like, if I like need to get inspired, like I could even just listen to the soundtrack from that movie and be
It feels
hyped.
like a middle of the ground movie until you like step in closer at it. You're like, what is it I like about that movie?
Yep, 100%.
Yep.
Because no one's gonna go like, this should have won an Oscar. Like, I'm not making that argument, but I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then honestly, like, I'm a big series guy, so this is a tough one, but this isn't one movie, but I'd probably slot The Lord of the Rings at number. Well, I'm not even gonna rank them. Lord of the Rings was like huge for me when I was a kid, and I still love it, and I think it holds up really well.
Yeah.
But some bonuses: love all the Harry Potter movies. I love all the Marvel movies. I'm a huge Marvel nerd.
Yep.
I love Star Wars. So, anyways, I'm kind of just like, I'm not like super picky. I'm like, if it's in those worlds, I'm like, yes, I'm in. I will watch it. So, anyways.
Favorite food?
Probably Mexican food overall. But I also really love Thai food. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Okay.
Yeah. Just blue.
I'm the same. It was funny. For a while, I was in denial about the fact that my favorite color was blue, but then I realized literally anytime I was wearing anything ever, blue was involved.
Yep. It's a good one, man.
Yeah, just straight
Sounds like a real identity crisis. Is blue my favorite color?
Right. Yeah, truly. Favorite style of hat?
Oh, it's changed over the years, but I really like my truckers these days. But I used to only have flat brims when it was like not cool to wear dad hats, but I have a ton of dad hats too.
Coming back.
But I like that truckers are like, I have a big head, so I like that truckers are like, they're a little bit more like, I can fit more of my head in it. But anyways.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, on more of a serious note, what have been some of the fears or hardships or things that have just been really tough about making this step in music over the last 3 years? I know you've talked about the struggle that you've kind of personally been walking through.
Sure.
What have been some things, either maybe it's that mixed with just this process of trying to make it?
Yeah. I mean, one of the hardest things, like, so I'm married, and my wife and I have been together for a while. So, and we were engaged for like a year or something like that. So, so being away from her is always hard. I think that I get more used to traveling, but I always wish she could come with. But she's a teacher, and so she's like, I got bigger fish to fry. So, that's always hard. I think that some things that I didn't expect that would be hard, especially in our day and age, there's no such thing as like making music that is for everyone anymore. People think that sometimes, but even pop. So like Ed Sheeran's a great example. Probably like one of the easiest people to make an argument for, like he is like a globally loved musician, but that's not true. He's got some major haters, and he's the, you know, in the same boat as like with Coldplay, where I'm like, I don't know like what there is to like really hate about him, like but people do. Everyone has so many opinions, and you have access to infinite music these days. So I think even though I knew that going in, because that's what I believed about music already, it was hard for me to get used to the idea that like I could work my hardest on a song and it could fall flat for someone, or actually like they might hate it, like have an actual, not like, it could go deeper than indifference, and they could be like, I hate this song. And that doesn't mean that what I made was bad. I mean, it could mean that. That's possible. But there's plenty of great art out there that has a lot of smart people who say it's wonderful, and it'll get criticized for whatever reason. So I'm not saying I've gotten like a ton of hate. Like most of my fans are like so nice, and like I really think I have like the sweetest group of fans. But you know, every once in a while you against your better judgment look at the YouTube comments or whatever, and you're like, oh wow, someone really didn't like that. And so I've gotten a lot better about that. That's part of the reason why I have my trusted circle, because I have decided these are the people whose voices mean something to me. And anything else good is a bonus, and anything else bad is not something that I need to take into account, because I trust these people enough to tell me that if I wasn't putting in the effort, or if something could have been stronger, they would have let me know. So yeah, that was a big lesson that I still have to learn from time to time. What else? You know, I think that I think one thing that's been interesting, like I'm a pretty small artist, not a ton of people know my music, but even still, there are people who will kind of project an air of celebrity onto you, which I think that whole idea has a ton of brokenness to it anyways, because it's just unrealistic expectations for a messed up person. We're all broken. So so that is something that has surprised me too, is sometimes I will get like comments on like DMs on Instagram where people like want help with a problem or something, and it really tugs on my empathy, because it's like I'm a pastor's kid, and so like the pastor's kid in me that grew up in church is like, of course I want to like help you and like you know, talk with you, but it's like I can't be that to everyone. And at the end of the day, the most helpful thing for this person is someone in their own circle. Like, you know, like if someone reaches out to me from Maine, I'm in Seattle. I can't be community to somebody in Maine. They need a support group out there. And so that has been like, I guess, kind of the boundaries in that sense of going like, even if I wanted to help you, I would not be the best thing for you in this scenario. But people will latch on to the music and say like, this meant a lot to me, and so I want to talk to you about this issue or whatever. And it's not that I'm against talking with people, but it has taken me, it took me a while to realize like I can't be responsible for, I can't help everyone. And I'm not saying that in like, oh, look at me, like I just want to be so helpful, but it's a weird, a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong, and I think I see that. You know, like the desire to, like, someone is hurting, let me help them. Like that is a good desire, and I think it's a really mature call, even though it's a really hard one, to say what you said and to be in the spot of saying like, you know, I can't be that for you. Someone should be. Yes. 100%. It can't be me.
Totally.
And it's not like you're not doing that for the people in your life that you care about.
Totally.
For your wife, for your friends. Like, that's a very real thing.
Yep.
And also, like you said, like, you're just a human.
Right. Totally.
So even if you could, in a time capacity sense, like, reach out to all of those people, like, you only have so much to pour out.
Right. Totally. Absolutely. And also, it's like, I'm not like a pastor or a licensed therapist or
Right.
anything. It's like my advice is not worth a whole lot on with a lot of issues. So anyways, yeah, man. It's a weird job, but like I think everyone has a weird job. Everyone has weird parts of their job. And so I think that it's really easy to get enamored with like the artist thing. And so I've done just enough of it to go like, well, I still just am a regular person. And most people don't hold me in a celebrity regard. But I just think, I think it's cool when people can recognize like, yeah, we all just have jobs, and mine happens to be music and yours happens to be dentistry. And there are weird things about that job too.
Right.
Like, this is a tangent, but one time I was at the dentist and I asked my hygienist, I was just like, I just had a bunch of questions randomly. I was like, has anyone ever bit you before? She was like, oh yeah, absolutely. That's a weird thing dentists have to deal with that I never have to deal with.
Not yet.
Yeah, hopefully. Oh my gosh. And I forget what else I asked her, but I don't know. It's just everyone has weird pieces of their job. So anyways.
So in the course of time that you've been touring and kind of taking this all the way, what are some crazy stories? Kurt's been describing on the podcast them as pinch me moments, which I like that. But this kind of like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. I think I got to play a few shows with the road show before that tour got canceled because of the pandemic. And that felt pretty surreal because, we're walking into arenas and Bethel was headlining. And so, and my set was right before them. And so it was pretty crazy to like interact with people where it's like, I've known your music for a long time and now I'm just here next to you. And so I think anytime I get to like meet someone where it's like, I totally like have listened to a lot of your music, that always feels surreal. Like I've gotten to work with Marty from Social Club and with Tadashi, and like I can remember listening to Tadashi's Dum Dum song.
Right.
I still love that song.
Right. It's a classic.
But I remember like listening to that in high school and being like, dude, this is awesome. So there have been lots of pinch me moments like that where it's like, I can't believe that this dude just sent me a verse to add to my song. Like opening that session file and like hearing his like raw vocal was crazy.
Right.
So that was, and talking to him on the phone, I was like, and you're just like the nicest like human. So that kind of stuff has been surreal. I think like the first time you like sleep on a bus, like a tour bus, that's kind of surreal too. You're like in your bunk and then like it starts moving and you're like, oh my gosh, this is kind of exciting. And then you realize it's like kind of hard to sleep. And anyways, but it's all good stuff. So, and I think coming to Nashville for the first time was very much like a pinch me moment. I remember John Mays picking me up from the airport and there being like all the guitars on the walls and everything. And then going and meeting everybody and, they were treating me like I'm this big deal, which is super sweet. And I'm just, some kid from Seattle. And so, there have been a lot of those moments that have been super cool. It's always fun when it's like an unexpected moment too. Like you play a show and you show up and they're like super organized and the venue is awesome and there's a ton of people there and you didn't know what to expect because you've never been to a church in Arkansas before.
Right.
And then you walk in and it's like a party. Those are really fun moments too, where it catches you off guard and it's like, yeah, this is awesome. So
yeah.
So
I've seen you, like, at least it seems like a lot of like the videos and work that you've done, it seems like it's been like with like a buddy of yours, like that kind of thing. So do you have like a lot of still creative control over that side of things?
Yeah.
You kind of run it?
So my friend Jake Campbell, he's been one of my best friends for a long time. We went to college together and lived in that house together with Fletcher. And so it was actually
the roommates.
Yes.
Right.
The roommates. Yes. And it was actually Jake's idea to write that song for Fletcher.
Oh yeah.
And so he's the one behind the camera in that video, and he's done almost every single one of my videos since then. We've done a couple in Nashville, but pretty much every piece of video content I do, Jake has a hand in. And that has been fun because since that song was his idea. We've kind of created a brand together. So I always joke that like this is often how my conversations with Jake will go. I'll be like, what about like this really elaborate idea, and we'll have this shot and this shot and this shot, and then he'll be like, what about this? And it's like super simple, but so much better than what I just suggested, like every time. And I'm like, oh yeah, we should do that. And so there, we go back and forth, and we're pretty collaborative. Like rarely do we come up with a video and it's just one of our ideas. Usually we do all of the brainstorming and everything together. So that's been really fun because Jake is in Seattle too. So yeah, so pretty much now it's like, hey, new songs coming out. So we work with the label, and then Jake and I go off and set up the shots, and it's really fun. He's the best.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's like you and me, Ben.
Aw, the best.
Yeah, the best. So, so thinking forward, I mean, I know you're working on Going Up Part 2 and all sorts of fun things, but kind of just like, what is your dream? You know, like you've started on this trajectory. Who knows how long? Like maybe it'll just be your thing forever. Maybe it won't. Who knows? But like, if you could have a dream that you're like, this is where I'd love to go. Where's that?
Well, I definitely want to be, jumping around on stage in my 70s. So I'm just kidding. I think really like songwriting has become such a safe haven for me. And it became that in high school. Like I had a season of life, like my last 2 years of high school, where I had friends flaking out on me and stuff. And songwriting became not just like a place to process it, but like something to pour my energy into and my time. And so songwriting is something that I'm going to do until the day I die, because I just love it. And I sometimes, if I haven't written for a while, I notice like a serious difference in myself before and after I've gotten to like go in and create something. And I don't mean that in like a snobby creator way, but it just gives me a lot of life. And so my dream is just like, I just want to be able to make songs for my job for as long as possible. And so that necessarily will shift from season to season. Right now it's the artist thing. Maybe in, my 30s or 40s, it turns into writing for sync more, like television and that kind of stuff. All of it is exciting to me. And I don't think there will ever be a point where I'm not writing stuff for myself and, releasing it like just because I want to. So right now it's really exciting to have a team behind me. And I think that would be the dream, is always to have a team behind me that is excited about it, helping me make the best stuff that I can make. But yeah, man, I want to just keep making stuff that's authentic and that talks about Jesus and about life, and that people can party to, So.
Yeah, well, I mean, you described yourself earlier as, I think you said like, as the experiment in all of this. And I mean, there's probably a truth in that, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen with this, but like, I just want you to know, like, if you keep listening to where the Lord's leading you and you keep just trying to say, all right, well, I'm just going to step in and I'm just going to give it my all and see what happens. And also, it really doesn't seem like your identity is wrapped up in how do I maintain this image of things. Like if it was to crash and burn tomorrow, it would be a real bummer, but it really doesn't seem like that's your identity. And I think if you keep holding that posture and keep moving forward, you're going to be just fine.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. I think that like, at the end of the day, something that really sticks with me is the fact that it's like, music is special because of like the people it brings together. Like it would just be noise if it wasn't like meaningful to people who are listening to it, and meaningful to you and me as we are writing music. And so I think like at the end of the day, it's like it's the connection to people that is exciting. And so, and that's bigger than music too. So the way music does that is beautiful. But that's kingdom of God stuff. And that's way bigger than whether or not a song sells 1 million copies and 1 million people hear it. Like, it is valuable if you write a song and one other person is like, yes, that's me, and God is speaking to me through that. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So I really appreciate that. And that's definitely my philosophy, is like, I don't know, it's for the people for sure. And for me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Are you planning on doing any massive genre bending in future work?
I mean, you know, it's such an interesting time with music. I feel like you don't have to be super stuck in a genre anymore.
Which is just so beautiful.
It's really beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah, it's the best. I think like I'm a sucker for pop music, and so there will always be an element of like pop to whatever I do. Just you know, trying to write the catchiest hook that I can. But sometimes that might be a hip hop thing. Sometimes it might be have some, you know, new disco influence. Maybe sometimes it goes back to folk a little bit. So yeah, I love just getting to experiment, and I think that there are a lot of artists who are winning right now who are also like, yeah, what's a genre?
Right.
You know, I'll make whatever sounds fun to me. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's creating your style to kind of contribute to the world of music.
Yes.
Instead of trying to be like, this is our template.
Yep.
This is what we're working with. How can we do that? There's just something that feels like it preserves the honor of music by being like, how can I take what I am and combine that with rhythm and put it into the world of music?
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yep. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I have any other questions. Do you have any questions for me? I haven't asked anyone that, but
What are
putting out
your
there.
top 3 favorite movies?
Oh, dang it. I was hoping you didn't ask. Because literally, as I asked it, and you're like, man, I don't know if I have. I was like, do I have? Oh, man.
I had to do it, man. It's your time.
Dang it. Oh, well, I mean, I will echo. I love anything Marvel. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of those. I'm not so far into it to where, like, I will have heated debates.
Yeah.
But, like, if I'm in a room of someone who's having a heated debate, I know what they're talking about.
Yes.
You know, that's like my spot with that. So definitely any of the Marvel movies are good. In general, I really enjoy comedy movies just because I like the lighthearted nature of them. I'm trying to think if there's like a favorite comedy movie though that I have. I don't know. Oh man.
You can say Nacho
Favorite
Libre.
show.
It's okay.
What was that?
Favorite show.
That's
Favorite
good, too.
for the record. No, I'm kidding. I'm very much into New Girl.
Oh, I love New Girl.
I've
Yep.
literally seen it so much. Actually, it's funny because I've watched
Kind
it.
of always on at the studio.
I have seen it so much now that I notice all of the inconsistencies from a film side. Like they're saying this dialogue and they're like the shots from behind their head, but you can see there's no way they're actually saying
Yeah,
that right now.
100%.
To the point where it's starting to annoy me now, and I'm really bothered and I'm worried about that because I like that show a lot.
It's so good. It's so well written.
Yeah,
I love that show.
I have it. So probably New Girl.
Yeah.
I'll count that.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's 2.
Dang it.
I'm holding you to it, man. It's got to be 3.
Oh shoot! I mean, I grew up loving the Andy Griffith Show. I know it's
Okay.
also a show.
Yep. I'll take it.
I haven't seen it
I'll
for a long
accept it.
time, but man, that was
Yeah.
an integral part of my childhood.
Nostalgia.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I definitely can relate to the Marvel thing.
Yeah.
I after Endgame, I was like so sad that they were taking a break for a little while that I got their comic book app and started reading
Oh, yeah?
comics. So that's been like my nerdy pastime
Nice.
for the last couple of years, and
So
I love
I've
it.
fallen asleep in all the Lord of the Rings, Endgame, all the movies you guys like is not mine.
Why do you have to say that, dude?
So I can leave now.
Yeah, I think that would be best.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
This was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, for
You
me
know?
too.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, and we will see you later.
Bye.
If I put all the reeds in on that one, you could get a good. For more of a Cajun thing
Yep.
or Zydeco.